And in the name of our community, I would like to thank you for accepting our invitation and coming to be with us as we remember for the 30th year, the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So even though 30 years to some might feel like a lot of years, I'm sure that to the survivors of the 1994 genocide, it feels like a short time. Because every moment is a reminder of the loved ones who are not here anymore. But also these 30 years are a good reminder of how far our country has come and how much growth has happened in the last 30 years. We're going to begin by singing the national anthem of the US, followed by the Rwandan national anthem, and then a prayer by Pastor Sharon. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
We're going to sing the Rwandan national anthem together.
Rwanda nziza gihugu cyacu, uje imisozi ibiyaga n'ibirunga, ngo byiduhetse ahorana ishyamba. Reka tukurate tukuvuga ibigwi, wowe uduhuriye hamwe twese abanyarwanda, nuko watunganye. Reba sugira singizwa iteka, ukomeze ibikorwa ndadukunda, wagurukiye kukwitangira, amahoro asabe mu bagutuye. Wishime wizane muri byose, urangwe n'ishyaka imbere amahanga yose. Amajoro yawe riguhe ijambo.
Reka dusenge. Uwiteka Mana, tuje imbere y'amaso yawe tugushima tuguhimbaza, izina ryawe turishize hejuru, duciye bugufi imbere y'amaso yawe tuguhaye icyubahiro. Turagusaba Mwami Imana ngo mbere ya byose utwereshe amaraso yawe, tubabarire ibicumuro byacu. Turakwiyumvise Mana aka kanya ngo uze ubane natwe muri uyu umuhango turimo wo kwibuka abacu bazize uko baremwe, abacu bazize jenoside ya 1994 yakorewe Abatutsi. Turagusaba Mana ngo uhumurize imitima ibabaye, uwomore imitima ikomeretse Mana, nta wundi wabasha kubikora uretse wowe. Turagusaba Mwami ngo uze utange ihumure Mwami, ababuze ababo, ababuze ababyeyi, ababuze abavandimwe, ababuze abana, ababuze inshuti Mwami Imana, uze ubahumurize Mana muri iki gihe turimo cyo kwibuka. Turagusaba Mwami Imana ngo ukomeze ubane natwe muri gahunda. Turagushimira Mana ko ibyo umwanzi yari yarateganyije byatsinzwe mu izina rya Yesu. turagushimira Mwami Imana ko igiti cyaciwemo Mana cyongeye kigashabuka kikamera indi Mana, andi mashami atoshe Mwami Imana. Turagushima ko hagati yacu hari abantu bari kubara inkuru ya 30 bakiriho Mana, wongeye gusubiza ubuzima. Kandi turagushima Mana ko abakuzi dufite ibyiringiro by'umuzuko ko tuzongera kubona abacu twabuze. Turagusaba Mwami Imana ngo uzubane natwe muri gahunda yose ibibera hano Mana, ubijye imbere, kandi n'abaje kubana natwe muri gahunda y'Inshuti z'u Rwanda Mana nabo baho umugisha mu izina rya Yesu, amen.
Dear brothers and sisters, I would like to thank you for taking this time and get together to remember and give honor to our dear ones who were victims of the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. Despite the physical distance, we are together at heart in this gesture of love and honor to our dear ones on this 30th Kwibuka. The God of love created in love all his people in different races, nations, and cultures. He wanted them to be his beloved children and to be brothers and sisters among themselves in order to make up the family of God. But when people separate themselves from God, they miss the love that binds them together and make them brothers. They are divided. Hatred and discrimination were installed in Rwanda, and this is what led to the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. 30 years ago, our country was a flood of blood, tears, mourning, and a horrific scene. Kwibuka, to remember, is to give the love and honor to our dear ones whom the killers wanted to deprive them of. They died surrounded by hatred and insults, and we want to restore their dignity, the love, the compassion that they deserve, just as a dear person is surrounded by affection, tenderness in his or her last hour of life. We thank God for having given us in our country good leadership that worked tirelessly with enormous courage and heroism to stop the genocide and build our country from ashes into a unity, reconciliation, and fraternity, to make it a shining star in Africa and in the world. We are grateful to the survivors who courageously forgave the perpetrators and facilitated the process of reconciliation, which is a pillar of a united family in integral development. Let us educate the young generation to continue this heritage of unity and fraternity so that what happened in Rwanda may never happen again. May God give our dear ones that we remember to rest in eternal peace.
We're going to begin by welcoming the president of the Rwandan community of Iowa, Mr. Kwebuka, so that he can say a few words. Thank you.
Distinguished owners, ladies and gentlemen, as the Rwandan community of Iowa, together with Iowa Friends of Rwanda, shared with Stephen Noah, it's such an honor and pleasure to have you here today to celebrate Kwibuka, Tori. That is 20th commemoration for genocide against the Tutsi. We have reason to thank you because it's our 7th time as Rwandans living in Iowa to celebrate the commemoration of genocide against the Tutsi in the Des Moines metro area. We hope to continue to celebrate this annual commemoration because we know even when like a few years ago, we went through COVID, but we never stopped that because we still had these events virtually. So we are thankful for having this event today for the 7th time since we started the year 2018. However, what brings us today is one of the darkest moments in our common history as humankind. The start of genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda exactly 12 years ago today. Kwibuka, the name given to the annual commemoration in the Kinyarwanda language, is also imperative, especially as we reach this 30 milestone. We remember the genocide against the Tutsi was perpetrated with unprecedented savagery. Genocide against the Tutsi took the lives of 1,074,017. According to the census conducted in 2000 by the Ministry of Local Government in Rwanda, between April and July 1994, among the lives we lost, 53.8% were under 24 years old, 56.4% were males, and 43.3% were females. Within 100 days, averages of 10,000 people were being killed daily. Genocide against the Tutsi left with many consequences, including orphans, widows, people with disabilities, genocide survivors with no shelters, chronic disease, unwanted pregnancies due to rapes, a large number of prisoners who were waiting to be prosecuted, and many more. This is the 30th time we commemorate genocide against the Tutsi. It's like the first time. Commemorating is to start afresh as we remember our nature, families, lives in the country, and in the country. When we commemorate, we go back in these times. Rwandans need to keep remembering the truth and acknowledging that it's us who are affected by these issues, and therefore we have the duty to keep this building our capacity for developing and living dignified lives. It is the message that must be the core of our history and all times. Commemorating the genocide is a part of confronting our past and an opportunity to strive to change for the better. It also reminds us that if we don't confront our history in the way we should, it can repeat itself. In whatever we do, we must ensure that our history doesn't repeat itself.
We're going to introduce our next speaker. As he said, he's a man who needs no introduction. He's a true friend of Rwanda who has visited our country more than 35 times since 2008. Steve has helped Rwanda in many ways, from helping students get scholarships at universities here in the US, including William Penn, where he served as the vice president, to helping in the agricultural and health sector.
Members of the Rwandan community in Iowa, members of the Friends of Rwanda, ladies and gentlemen and special guests. On April 7th, it was my privilege to attend the Kwibuka 30 ceremony in Kigali, Rwanda. In his remarks, His Excellency Paul Kagame, President of the Republic of Rwanda, spoke both of grief for those lost and gratitude for those who have helped Rwanda recover and grow. He also spoke of the continuing ambiguity of why any country or person would remain intentionally vague about who was targeted in the genocide. Such ambiguity is a form of genocide denial. Today, genocide denial comes in many forms, including articles in the New York Times and in The Guardian from the UK, using the figure of 800,000 lives lost, when the proven number is well over 1 million victims. United States Secretary of State Anthony Blinken refuses to mention the genocide against the Tutsi of Rwanda, and rather talks of the death of Tutsi Hutu and Twa during the tragedy, despite United Nations recognition of the genocide against the Tutsi of Rwanda. Many pundits and critics of Rwanda use information that comes from theories submitted in the defense of accused genocide perpetrators in the Arusha trials as fact. Others cite the fictionalized depiction in a Hollywood movie as indisputable evidence. Unfortunately, genocide denial does not begin, nor does it end with the genocide against the Tutsi of Rwanda. In my association with the Aegis Trust, a British NGO which built and manages the Kigali Genocide Memorial and works to prevent genocides around the world, we are aware of the genocide against the Armenians in World War I, when at least 1.5 million Armenians were deported and massacred by the Ottoman Empire. The tragedy of the Armenian genocide is an undeniable historical reality, and yet it is denied by the government of Turkey to this day. Brothers James and Stephen Smith of the UK founded the Aegis Trust after both volunteered in the aftermath of the genocide at Srebrenica in 1995, also recognized by the United States. A banner headline in yesterday's Washington Post read, "Thousands of Bosnian Serbs attended rally denying genocide was committed in Srebrenica in 1995.
We're going to welcome our next speaker. His name is Jules Mahonde. He earned his electromechanical engineering degree at KISS and used his background in helping build the Kigali International Airport, serving as a site engineer in charge of runway, taxi, and apron lights. He worked at Kwebuka in charge of fleet and power generation.
After the genocide, Rwanda was declared by many foreign countries as a failed state. There was no hope. You could go to bed, but didn't know if you woke up the next day. And for Rwanda to be where it is today, it went through several processes. Among them, I think one is to unite all Rwandans so that they can work together and build a better future. As mentioned, that one of the things which was done was to unite, I would say, the army, the defeated army, to join with the current army and work together. I mentioned that among 5 or 6 ministers of defense, 3 or 4 of them are from the defeated army, which is a decision taken by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Rwanda. Other thing, there were several meetings in Urugwiro village where was the office of the President, where they had to discuss and take decision of measures to take for Rwanda to be able to work up and move forward. Among them was the Gacaca, which was a local tribunal where people would sit together and talk about what happened, try to identify where the killed people were buried, if I can say so. Try to know the true stories of what happened during the genocide. Also, Rwanda decided to, before the genocide, the ethnic groups were mentioned in everyone's ID, so they decided to remove it. Not only the ethnic group was mentioned on the IDs, but it was also put in the system, administrative system, so that they will know, like, the Hutus were 01, the Tutsi were 02, and the Hutus, their number was 03. So even if you don't have someone's ID, you could see who they are, and some will get their right, and others will be denied their right based on their ethnic groups. In Rwanda, before the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, we had very few private schools and universities, but today the number of graduates is increasing. I think before the genocide we had, I guess, 3,000 graduates only, but today it's 100,000.
We're going to continue by reading names. We'll be reading 200 names out of more than 1 million lives that were lost. And these 200 names are loved ones of the Rwandans that are here today. Because this is why we came, to remember them, to remember who they were in our lives and what they meant. Twanje gushimira papa bw'ijambo yatugejejeho atwibutsa urugendo rutoroshye u Rwanda rwanyuzemo rwo kongera kwiyubaka. Tugiye kurikizaho umwanya wo gusoma amazina, turasoma amazina 200 mu mazina arenga miliyoni y'abishwe muri jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi mu mwaka w'igihumbi kimwe magana cyenda mirongo icyenda na kane. Nicyo cyatuzanye uyu munsi kugira ngo twibuke abacu, twibuke abo bariho, twongere kubaha icyubahiro. Murakoze, tugira ngo dusabe abari budufashe gusoma amazina begere imbere.
As we say their names out loud, it is a sign that they're still with us. Because for genocide survivors, we mourn every day, we remember every day, and it's an ongoing life. So these people here, it's not just names on the paper, these are the people who once lived with. These are the people who died when we were there. So for us, it is a special and a meaningful way to honor and to bring their names back to life in a way. We remember Mahuruteri, Alexia Ingabe, Albert Kalisa Ngwende, Mazdimaka Hassan Eugene, Rwagiriza Tixo, Kataraiha Zakari, Sarabwe Francois, Kagarama, Gakuru and their kids. We remember Twagimana Jean-Baptiste. We remember Nyemazi. We remember Kayumba, Ngangare, Mukakibibi, Murinda. We remember Kangenza, Shizirungu. We remember Mutaganzwa, Mutuminka, Mutaganzwa, Muhizi, Mushumba, Sempundu. We also remember the family of Abendezi, Nzabandora, Yohana, Bazambanza, Kayumba Augustin, and his wife Margarita, and all their children. We remember Karasanyi, who lived in Rwibogo. We remember Nemeye, who also was living in a place called Rwibogo back in Rwanda. We remember Rukinga. We remember Evariste Ntaganzwa. We remember Perezida Mukonde. We remember Taufi Nyiribakwe. We remember Albert. We remember Vedast, André. We remember Josephine and her family. We remember Ntaganzwa extended family. We remember Uwamariya Mathilde, Dr. Gahima Vincent, Mbabazi Basile, and Rwaneza Clementine.
Ndibuka papa Sanzabera Elias, ndibuka Murikira Tesmas, Nyirangeri Apollinaire, Nyiramongi Ansira, Jonas Deogratias, Christian, turibuka Mukagahima Leocadia, Dr. Muriro Magingo, Auguste n'abana babo bane, Perpetua Gaceceri n'abana babo. Turibuka Kabasha Edith, Munyankore Faustin, Gasasira Emmanuel, Kayijuka Kariyopi. Turibuka Tumusifu Claver, Uwera Clemence, Kaburabuza Emmanuel, niwe mwana Alphonse. Turibuka Itegeri Nyasi, Itegeri Solange, Mukarugwiza Bernadette. Turibuka Mugema Gerard, Ntagwabira Sosipatri, Mariamu. Tukibuka Mukayirangwa Beata na Werarisi ndetse na Bernard. Turibuka Mukamutara Therese, Kayisinga Laurence, Kanzinya Felicite, Iyikirenge Marie Marceline. Tukibuka Bigema Nathanael, Musabyirema Beatrice, Kanoni Pascal, Kanoni Alfred, Icyariho Annick. Tukibuka Jean-Marie Vianney Mwikira, Atanazi Makuza. Tukibuka Marie Mutamuriza, Tasiane. Tukibuka Edith Yodede, Makire Urusharanyana ndetse na Matingire.
Turibuka mama wanjye Mukangenzi Bertide. Ndibuka musaza wanjye Muhigana Egide. Ndibuka murumuna wa Muhigana Egide, musaza wanjye nanone wamukurikiraga witwaga Myerwazi Jean Paul. Ndibuka mubyara wanjye Bicanwe Gatarina. Turibuka Uwimana Alphonsine, Mukange Rurangwa Adrien Kalisi n'umugore we n'abana. Turibuka Kangenge n'abana be babiri, Ntiyamira Kayumba n'abana be babiri, Kamuhire Didasienne. Turibuka Kraveri n'abana be. Turibuka Nzakamwita Mukakagenza Kanyabusatsi, Gashayija n'abana be, Nyirabakarani n'umugabo we n'abana be 4. Turibuka Seromba n'abana be 5. Turibuka Ngengera François, Gatabo Emmanuel, Kamari. Turibuka Odette n'umugabo we ndetse n'umwana we Bicanwe. Turibuka Nkurunziza Ntaganda Celestin, Mukakibibi Madeleine. Turibuka nyina w'Abasobe Pelagie, Kayitakire Athanase. Turibuka Kayitare Alain, Kayitakire Remy. Turibuka Rubona Louis Eli. Turibuka Rubona Louis n'umuryango we wose, Mukakabera Anastasie, Rubona Bertrand. Turibuka Iribagiza Marie Louise, Rusanganwa Raymond. Turibuka Nkaka Didaslas n'umugore we ndetse n'abana be. Turibuka Ngirumpatse Ledislas, Sebahungu Anselme. Turibuka Dusenge Jeannette, Kamonyo Charles n'umugore we n'abana be 6. Turibuka kandi Eugene n'abana be 3. Ndibuka papa Gahima Vincent. Ndibuka mama Maria Matilde. Ndibuka musaza wanjye Bazi, Kamuruna wanjye Clementine. Ndibuka Alphonse mubyara wanjye ndetse n'abandi bose bo mu muryango hafi bazize Jenoside. Turibuka kandi Gatorade Anastase, Gakecuru Claudine. Mukara Niyonzima, Ndayambaje Elias, Rugwizangoga Gaspard, his wife, Mukama Josephine and children, Mutesi Mupenzi,
Rukara, ndibuka muri Katete, Hawa, Mukayiyongera Onil, Kambanda François, Nyiramana Melanie, Uwimana Melanie, Uwimana Françoise, Nyiransabimana Esperance, Nyirankundimana Ansire, Sibomana Joseph, Manishimwe Ibrahim, Turikwijumbi Josephine, Muntu Emmanuel, Neziryayo Sylvestre, turibuka Dedere, Murangwa Fidel, Naganyira Imam, Kabarisa Inusa, Murenzi Albert, Kamari Clement, turibuka Ingabire Clementine, Uwamariya Claudine, Mugiriba Pelagie, Mukayisire Jean Paul, Iradukunda Fabrice, Kimonyo Mathias, turibuka Mukamudodo Donatille, Nyirabarambane Godelive and children, Muraine Andre, Karangwa Clever, his wife and their children, Rutayisire Jean Bosco, Rwabutungera, Rwabutogo Marcel, Rwabukumba, Ludovico, Atanas and children. We remember Isabeliza Domitille, Kairango Justin, Kidamaje, Nyiranekezimana and children. We remember Hakim, Murenzi Antoine, Mazuru, Mukarushema Anastasia, Maricia and children, Nyirabukaraba, Munyakayanza, Mana komezi batuza heza.
We remember Kaingamba Jean-Claude, his wife Rosalie, and his sister. We remember Safari Jean-Baptiste and his wife Françoise. We remember Nyakayanza Eugene, Waka and his brother. We remember Munyandamutsa Alphonse, Gahira Alexis, Kimana Fred. We remember Taylor Jean-Pierre, Kashotsi Edward, Maria Odile. We remember Bagambiki Antoine, Mukamusi Rosalie, Mukamuranga Mariette. We remember Muranga Theonest, Mukamugima Bernadette. Remember Safari Zaria, Habib Shineke Ibrahim. We remember Michelle Ndiye Ali Owera. We remember Edith Onfuisoni. We remember Matilde Mukamusonera, Gaeta Wampaya. We remember Herman Wampaya, Rita Mutesi. We remember Foster Mugwaneza, Kansilt, Anje Wamaria. We remember Theotim, Francine, Ugamba Gedeo, Mukamurenzi Christian. We remember Bazatoha Baltazar, Mukambabazi Odette. We remember Atondo Manzi Egypt, Muraza Diama Egidia. We remember
Sapase Cadet, Chuzozo, remember Shine, Viteri Leonard, remember Kambunda Remusi.
We're going to continue by lighting the light for remembrance, which will be followed by a minute of silence. Please welcome Chantal Rutayisire.
Nkuko bababwiye amazina yanjye ni Chantal Rutayisire, nkomoka kuri Rutayisire Antoine na mugore w'ishyaka Teresi. Twavutse turi abana batandatu, mvuka ndi uwa gatatu. Mvukira ahitwa i Butare, ubu hakaba ari muri Gisagara, mu murenge wa Gikonko, akagari ka Mugusa. Iwacu twari dutuye twegeranye, ndabanza babwira amateka y'iwacu ho gatoya. Twari dutuye ahantu mu giturage, imiryango yacu yari ituranye, kuva kuri nyogokuru ubyara papa n'abo bavaga inda imwe, abo bashakanye ndetse n'abana babo. Muri 1993 mu kwezi kwa gatatu nabaga kwa sogokuru ubyara mama, aho abana babo bari barashatse, noneho ababyeyi bafata icyemezo cy'uko njye gufasha abasaza ku uturimo two mu rugo. Ubwo kwa gatatu 1994 umusaza ubyara mama yaje kwitaba Imana azize uburwayi, tuza gutangira ikiriyo, ari nabwo tukiri mu kiriyo nibwo twumvise ko indege ya Habyarimana yaguye. Ubwo ko Pasika yari irimo ntabwo twabashije kuyitegura kuko twari tukiririra umusaza. Muri icyo gihe indege igwa, ababyeyi n'abantu bakuru bagize ubwoba, ariko abana ntabwo twamenyaga ibyo ari byo, ntabwo twari tuzi ingaruka z'ibintu bibaye. Genocide yakorewe Abatutsi itangira nari mfite imyaka 13. Umwana w'imyaka 13 wo mu cyaro hari ibintu byinshi adasobanukirwa. Ubwo burugumesitire waho nari ntuye yatangiye na konseye, bavuga ko abantu bari ahantu batavuka basubira mu biturage by'iwabo. Ubwo nibwo nafashe inzira subira aho ababyeyi banjye babaga. Ntibyateye kabiri maze kugera iwacu nibwo twagiye duterwa n'interahamwe, ibitero byaje, ariko baza kuko i Butare Jenoside yatangiye itinzeho gatoya, bakaza baje kutubwira ngo tubahe amafaranga cyangwa ibyo dutunze ngo kugira ngo bazaturinde igihe cyo kwica abatutsi nigitangira. Ababyeyi banjye bari bafite ubushobozi bwo mu cyaro, twari dufite ubutunzi, inka nyinshi. Ubwo nibwo ababyeyi batangiye guha abari abahutu inka, ndetse bagira ngo bazibahishire nihagira nibitangira zitazaribwa. Ubwo amafaranga bayatanga ababyeyi bagira ngo bazabarindire abana. Tumara ibyumweru bitari bike, ubwoba ari bwose, badusura buri munsi batubwira ko umunsi w'abatutsi wageze. Ubwo tubibonye gutyo, abasore n'abagabo batangira kwiga uko bahunga. Ubwo bamwe ko aho twari dutuye hendaga kuba hafi y'u Burundi, bagerageza kugenda, ndetse bashakaga kureba uko ku mupaka byifashe ngo barebe ko bagaruka bakabwira abandi nabo kugira ngo bahunge. Mubyara wanjye yitwa Egide Rudasingwa yaragiye agera ku mupaka w'u Burundi, aragaruka abwira ba papa na musaza wanjye nakurikiraga n'abandi bo mu muryango ngo barebe uko bagenda. Bamwe baragiye, abandi papa ariwe Rutayisire Antoine na musaza wanjye nakurikiraga witwa Rutayisire Fratien banga kugenda badusize. Ababishoboye baragiye, nubwo bitabahiriye babiciye mu nzira. Ubwo papa ajya ku muntu twari duturanye witwaga Birikunzira, amusaba ko yamuhisha ndetse agahisha n'uwo Rutayisire Fratien nakurikiraga. Ubwo mama afata abana b'abahungu, harimo musaza wanjye bakurikiraga witwaga Tuyisingize Claude n'abandi bana bo mu muryango bari bato, abambika amakanzu kugira ngo bamere nk'abakobwa, bagire ngo ni abakobwa, nibatangira kwica ntibazabice. Ko batubwiraga ko bari kwica abagabo n'abasore n'abahungu. Ubwo bigenda bikomera uko iminsi yagiye igenda, haza igitero cy'umuntu twari duturanye. Mama yari yarabyariye umugore wabo cyangwa se famiye yabo muri batisimu, araza n'igitero. Twari twicaye muri salo turi gusenga, aravuga ngo nidusohoke umunsi wageze. Bari bafite imiri, bari bafite imihoro n'ibindi bikoresho bakoreshaga bica. Ubwo mama yabaye nk'utakamba avuga ati mbabarira ntidusohoke, tuguhe ibindi byose ariko ntunkorere ku bana. Aramusunika, amukubita umuhoro ku kaboko. Ubwo mama niko yarwanaga ahekwa bucura bwacu w'imyaka 2 witwaga Kadete. Turasohoka, harimo nyogokuru n'abandi bo mu muryango, tujya mu mbuga. Tugeze mu mbuga baratubwira ngo turyame hasi, turyama hasi. Mama bamujishura umwana w'imyaka 2. Hashize umwanya baravuga ngo duhaguruke, batuzamura ku musozi aho bari barashyize iseta yo kwica abatutsi. Twazamutse badusubika, nyogokuru yari ashaje cyane, bagenda bamuhutaza bavuga ngo ntazongera kuba umwamikazi.
Turabanza gushima Chantal Bitayisire umwanya yafashe kuva Houston, Texas akaza kubana natwe, akaza kudusangiza ubuhamya bwe. Ni ibintu bitoroshye, turagushimiye kandi twaje gufatanya nawe kubawe bishwe muri Jenoside yakorewe Abatutsi. We're going to continue with a short panel discussion. We'll have time to talk about over the last 30 years there's been an issue of genocide denial, and so we're going to have a short panel discussion and also a Q&A section. So if you have any questions, we'll have time for a couple questions at the end. Thank you. We'll be having our 3 speakers, Mr. Jules Muhonde, Mr. Claudia Karangwa, and Mr. Steve Noah, and their moderator, Pastor Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bella. Thank you everyone for joining us here today. We are running out of time. We had planned to do a longer session, but we'll do what we can as time permits. Then we'll give the audience time for questions and answers. Genocide denial ideology has been going on and rising, and as Ms. Steve Noah said in his speech, even the officials of the United States are not calling the Rwandan genocide against Tutsi the right name that it should be called. It's part of us as a community to spot what genocide denial ideology is and to combat it before it's too late and before the generation to come gets the wrong message or the history repeats itself. My first question, what are some key factors that contributed to the emergence of the Rwandan genocide denial ideology? And why do you think denial ideology is still happening at this day? Also, since we're out of time, I'm going to put 2 questions in one. How do we respond to individuals or groups promoting genocide denial ideology?
Genocide itself has 10 classifications, and these 10 classifications, genocide of Rwanda experienced all of them. So among these 10 stages of genocide, the last one is one we are facing right now, genocide denial. So the first one was classification. This everything I will do, I just go give a reference to genocide against the Tutsi. Classification is when the difference between people are not respected. There is the division of us and them, which can be carried out using stereotype or excluding people who are perceived to be different. This one, it happened in Rwanda where people were being classified in different groups. Second one was symbolization. This is when this is a visual manifestation of hatred. We have also difference in other genocide happening in worldwide, where Jews in Nazi in Europe were also to wear yellow star to show that where they different. But here in case of Rwanda, symbolization was used in things like where they gave some example, like classifying people, what they call Irangamuntu or ID, where ID they were putting the ethnic group, people will be able to be identified by checking the ID. There is discrimination is number 3. There is dehumanization. In the case of Rwanda, when they were killing Tutsi, they started defining them to insects. Do you know what they call a cockroach? When they were killing them, they said, let's kill cockroaches. The 5th was organization. In Rwanda, this happened when the government, the then government, had set up the militia to implement what they have planned for a long time, and it started slowly, even if genocide happened in 1994, but it's something started like many years before that. There is polarization. Polarization is when they use propaganda through TV, conference on TV, through a newspaper. In Rwanda, there were popular newspapers that were showing hatred between people, where people themselves became enemy to other neighbors because of the lot of media. After that, number 7, there's a preparation. In the case of Rwanda, after they set up the militias funded by the government, so preparation were done, getting ready to implement the massacre. Persecution is number 8. Victims are identified because of the ethnicity or religion, and death lists are drawn up. In the case of Rwanda, people were identified by ethnic group. As we mentioned, the Tutsi were targeted, and it was easy to identify them. Number 9 is extermination. It's when the hate group murders, they identified victims in a deliberate and systematic campaign of violence. This is number 9. That's when in 1994, as I said, killing happened even before April 1994, but between April 1994 through July 1994, that's where this stage happened. Number 10, which we are now facing after 30 years, it's denial. The perpetrators or later generation deny the existence of any crime. So in the case of Rwanda, even after 30 years, we still have denials of genocide. And the worst thing is that it's being transferred into generation to a generation. Probably with this, I will answer some of the questions you asked. You may wonder why people, what we can do, like factors that contributed to this. It's just people like those that are being given space to speak. This is wrong. At first, they should not be given space. We have an example of people, for example, who fled to this country in the United States, and they committed genocide. But some of them, at least, United States deported them. But before then, they were organizing, having conferences in universities, and giving some more false information. That's what I'm saying. These people should not be given space. I give an example for Professor Leopold Munyakazi. He was deported back in Rwanda, executed. Also, people know someone called Munyesera, who lived in Canada for a long time, but later on he was deported back to Rwanda. Munyesera was really mastermind during the genocide. Even before that, he's the one who said Tutsi should be killed and be thrown in the river called Nyabarongo and go all the way to Ethiopia because they have the ideology that Tutsi were immigrants from Ethiopia, which is not true.
The question was, what are some key factors that contributed to the emergence of the Rwandan genocide denial ideology? And the number one factor was that there were survivors. And once there were survivors, that meant that perpetrators had to find some way to justify what they had done. And if you look deeply into the Rwandan genocide, the perpetrators started back in the early days of the Belgian colonization, when the Belgians not only broke up what was the larger Rwandan community into separate colonies, but they also moved some ethnic Tutsis into Congo, some Burundis and people in Burundi and Rwanda, trying to get them to police areas where they had not been raised. And then they instituted the identity cards, and then they instituted the strong divisions of Hutus and Tutsis and haves and have-nots. And the whole idea of the difference in ethnicity and in the identity in the whole Rwanda, East Congo, Burundi area was the fault of European colonization. So now we've had the genocide, and everybody wants to say they were implicit, and yet the Belgians were implicit in turning the country over to the Hutus when it had been ruled by the Tutsis for thousands of years, or hundreds of years anyway. The French were complicit in trying to arm the Hutu government. And in fact, we forget that the Hutu government had a seat on the UN Security Council during the genocide against the Tutsi. We come to today, and everyone is trying to find a reason to justify what they did, what they didn't do, and how the genocide happened. And the best way to do that is to deny that you were ever complicit in the genocide, or that the genocide was ever intended to eradicate the Tutsi. And that's what's happening today.
hari ikibazo cyabazamuka kuki ingengabitekerezo ya jenoside ikomeje kugeza uyu munsi. Zimwe mu mpamvu nuko ibihugu by'amahanga biriya bifite imbaraga birengagije gukora inshingano zabo. Bari bafite amakuru kugira ngo General Rwandan yarabyanditse mu gitabo cye, bari bafite amakuru ko jenoside irimo gutegurwa mu gihe cya jenoside ntacyo bakoze ngo bayikumire mbere y'uko iba, no mu gihe cya jenoside baciye abasirikare babo kugira ngo abakurikije itariki ya 11 z'ukwa kane buri gihe Kicukiro bibuka abishwe basizwe bari barinzwe n'ingabo za UN. Bari basigaye baragenda baricwa kuba rero badashobora gusobanura impamvu batagize icyo bakora ngo bayikumire cyangwa se bayihagarike. Ni zimwe mu mpamvu zishobora gutuma n'ubundi bakomeza guha intebe abafite ingengabitekerezo. Ku Banyarwanda bagira ngo ababyeyi benshi biragoye gusobanurira umwana wawe ko umwe mu babyeyi yishe abantu. Byarabaye mu myaka yashize aho abagororwa bavaga muri gereza bakaza gusobanura ibyo bakoze. Hari uwo nibuka watonganyije abadamu, aravuga ati twe turafunzwe ku byo twakoze ariko murabeshya abana ko ntacyo twakoze, bigatuma wa mwana uza gusura muri gereza yumva ko aje gusura inzirakarengane kandi mu by'ukuri ibyaha byarakozwe mu maso y'abantu bose. Ibyo rero bikaba bimwe mu bikomeza gutuma iyo ngengabitekerezo ya jenoside ikomeje kuba igaragara kugeza uyu munsi.
Our next question is how do we respond to individuals or groups promoting genocide denial ideology, and what are some common arguments used by genocide deniers to undermine the reality of the 1994 Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi?
Some of the common arguments used by the genocide deniers are arguments that were first presented in the defense of the perpetrators in the original war crimes trials. One of the interesting arguments is that there were not enough Tutsis to have 800,000 or 1 million Tutsis killed. Some American social scientists said that there were only 400,000 Tutsis alive in Rwanda at the time of genocide, and it couldn't possibly been, there could not have possibly been 800,000 Tutsis killed. Another argument that was first presented at the Arusha war crime trials was, yes, there was a genocide against the Tutsi, but then RPF had a second genocide against the Hutu after they defeated the Tutsi. And so there was a double genocide, not a single genocide. And that is frankly the argument that our Secretary of State uses when he talks about the terrible tragedy, but it was a tragedy where Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa were all destroyed. And most people recognize that it was indeed a genocide against the Tutsi. A third argument is about the validity of the Rwandan government because of the argument that did the RPF assassinate the president of Rwanda. And it's been pretty much proven that that was not the case, but it's another argument. So those are some of the arguments that people have on why denying the genocide against the Tutsi. And they're all invalid arguments, and the only way that we can try to debunk the arguments is through education.
Thank you, Steve. I think I will respond on how we respond to individuals or groups promoting genocide denial ideology. I guess you said about education. I also think we need to use, today we have the social media, we have internet, we have all tools that people use to promote the genocide denial. I guess anyone can also use the same platform to show to respond to what the genocide deniers are saying. So we need to use the social media, we need to use all those platforms to respond to them. But also I think one of the tools that can help is to ask. I know we have been asking a lot to the genocide survivors, but we need to ask them to write more, show the exact situation. If we do write, if we do write what happened, and we ask also the genocide deniers to write something which shows really that it didn't happen. So I think people need to write and use the social media platform to combat the genocide denial.
For people who undermine the reality of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, some other factors they do, they distort its statistic. We talk about 1 million lost lives during the genocide, over 1 million, but you will see some more institution or newspaper, even big newspaper, they say it's 800,000 instead of saying 1 million. And this is a census happened in a systematic way, in a scientific way, and it can be proven. Another thing, other genocide deniers some of them also they claim themselves to be a heroes, not a villains, or saviors, not saviors. Most of them they do that because they have political ambitions, because they have what they want to achieve what they are attacking, and they start claiming themselves to be heroes. So you know some of the examples of people who are doing that because of political ambitions.
What are some long-term consequences of the denial ideology surrounding the 1994 Rwandan genocide against the Tutsi?
Rwanda, even after 20 years, we are facing cases of trauma, mental issues. It's a big problem Rwanda is facing. One of the reasons is that, as we are discussing here, there are people who still giving hate speeches. People who are still showing those signs that put people back in the memory, half the memories they had 20 years ago. Those are the people who don't care. I can give an example of someone who really, one time, when there was a trial in Arusha, in a tribunal set up for Rwanda to persecute the people who committed the genocide in 1994. Kanova Gusora, one time, Kanova Gusora was one of the 10 people who defined the enemy before the genocide started. Was one of the 10 people who defines who is the enemy, who is supposed to be killed. So when he was facing the trial, he happened to say that, go tell them who have been killed to come to testify. Imagine if someone said that. Go call those who were killed to come to testify that I did it.
As people promote that genocide denial ideology, as they talk to different media or any other people, their relatives and friends, so it slows down the process of reconciliation in the country. And who knows, if you see what is happening in neighboring countries, it might happen again if people are not very careful. So it's a very sensitive subject that needs to be addressed, and we all need to work together to make sure that all those genocide deniers, they get the proper answers to what they are doing.
From my perspective, as someone that was not involved in the genocide in Rwanda and really has no personal investment in what's happening in Rwanda other than the kids we call our Rwandan children, I think genocide denial in Rwanda is critical to the world, because I believe genocide denial in Rwanda helps exacerbate genocide or denial of the Holocaust, denial of the genocide in Sri Lanka, denial of the genocide in Armenia 100 years ago. And I think that genocide denial helps to perpetrate the idea of populism, the idea of ethnic populism, the idea of religious populism. And anytime we start to define ourselves in those narrow groups and narrow definitions, we open the door for future genocides and future wars.
Thank you all. We're opening it to the audience. If you have any questions, we'll take 2 questions because we're running out of time.
Thank you very much. My question is, what can Iowans, the Rwandan community here and their friends, do to expand the capacity for trauma healing in Rwanda? Thank you.
Your question is a very good question. And we in Iowa can support groups such as the Aegis Trust that provides civility and trauma training to every school-aged child in Rwanda at the present time. And there are many other groups that do that. And if we want, the Rwandan community here does a wonderful job supporting Rwandans and supporting the diaspora. But those of us that are not members of the Rwandan community can give some of our philanthropy to help Rwandans and to help others in Africa, for that matter, in trauma healing and trauma training.
If you have more tools and have more people trained, I think that will help, because Rwandan culture, normally we don't speak. We don't talk about our problems, our issues. So I guess even here, we need to sensitize ourselves, our communities, so that we seek first and get that help, because it's in our culture. We don't talk about our problems, but one day they show up. So we need more trainings and try also to use the tools that are available here to get the proper help.
For me, I would I will ask you if you can expand the network. Right now, what Stephen Noah is doing a lot to help us to be with us through what we call Friend of Rwanda. So if we can have many people, as many as we can, that would be helpful. We're just talking about right now trauma and trauma healing and mental issues, but there is some other issues that we can help our Rwandan community. If we have like that channel, when we started this community 7 years ago, we had many people coming, like Friend of Rwanda. We are thankful to have them to keep working with them. So if we can have a big group, that would be helpful.
Thank you to our panel for taking the time to speak to us and answering some of the questions, as well as shedding light on what's going on around in the world. We're going to continue with our next speaker, Honorable Eddie Andrews. He's a first-term representative for the state of Iowa. He earned his bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering from the University of Iowa. He then went to take grad courses at the University of Massachusetts and Iowa State University. He has continuously aided the community by creating various programs like the Des Moines Spanish Conversation Group, which bridges cultures and languages. It is a pleasure to have him today. Please welcome Honorable Eddie.
First of all, let me say thanks to Claudine for the invitation. And this is extremely important. This is a valuable event. My colleague, Esperance, who works with me at the Capitol, last year invited me to Kwebuka 29, and I was amazed. I was moved, I was touched at the information that was provided. And as an American, quite honestly, I was slightly embarrassed that I didn't know as much as I should have. Thank you to Chantal. Oh my, moving testimony, thank you. Last year it was at Drake, and that was a very fitting place. But I also think it's also a great place to have this in a church building. If we all remember the story of Joshua was told to put stones in certain spots. And it's not a doctrinal point, it's a principle point. It's not a doctrine, it's more of a principle. And why did he put those stones there? He said, because at some point your children need to know what happened. And as I was listening to the panelists and listening to Chantal, and hearing about the people who are denying what happened, people who control the language control the argument. That's why, as one of the panelists said, you have to be unafraid to tell the truth. There's an old saying, and I don't know if this translates very well, but sometimes there's an old saying that says, a lie can go all the way around the world before truth can even get its shoes on. Lies spread very, very quickly. But it's important to everyone here to continue to tell the truth and tell your children so that the words genocide never again actually mean something. When I first came in, I just sat in the back and I was just observing everyone. And I thank you for being attentive. It was so moving. I saw tears, I saw just pensive thoughts. As we think about human beings who could do this to another set of human beings. Like, it's just amazing in a bad way. So our challenge is to be amazing in a good way, so that this and other atrocities never happen again, for real. We say that all the time. But if we let lies linger on unchallenged, they will happen again. So lastly, I won't be here long because obviously for time and so on. We were speaking with someone, I don't know if I should say his name or not, but we were talking about doing like a museum, a place where people can go, that this isn't just one time a year or 2 times a year or 3 times a year, that we can express the story and educate people. Quite honestly, I love Iowa, but if you don't know about things like this, you're not interested. You understand what I mean? It's not a dig, it's not a negative, it's just, we need to know. And then once we know, we can do better. Or as there's a famous person, Maya Angelou, says, once we know better, we can do better. So thank you, God bless you.
We want to thank you all for being here today, for joining us in remembering for the 30th time the genocide against Tutsis that happened in 1994. It is an honor to have each and every one of you here, for taking your time out of your day and driving here, or some flying here. It's very touching to have you here. And so we'll continue and have refreshments in the next room, and there'll also be time to speak to other people, to network, get to know Rwandans that are here, get to know their stories, and allow them to get to know you as well. Murakoze, dushaka kwanza kubashima ko mwaje kubana natwe mugafata umwanya wanyu mukitabira uyu munsi. Ni iby'agaciro kuri twe ko twategura umunsi nk'uyu namwe mukatwitaba. Tugiye gukomerezaho mu cyumba kiranga ku ruhande, hari ibyo kurya bihari, mugira umwanya wo kuganira no kumenyana. Murakoze.